Welcome once again to the program. Now, the current challenges facing the financial sector due to delays in reconstituting boards of some state institutions could be over soon. Joy Business understands a list has been submitted to the presidency for approval. George Affairs more in this report.
Sources say the list includes members of the Securities and Exchange Commission and the National Insurance Commission. These institutions had no board in place after members appointed by the previous administration were asked to step aside. It is not clear for now whether the list includes that of Bank of Ghana, which has also not got a board. Delays in reconstituting these boards, like the Securities and Exchange Commission, have affected operations of firms in the financial sector and the capital market. Most of these institutions are seeking to raise additional capital, and for those who are also waiting for their licenses to be approved for them to start operation. Joy Business is learning some activities of the National Fire Service have also been affected due to delays in appointing board members for the National Insurance Commission. We also don't know how the absence of a board at the Bank of Ghana is affecting activities of the regulator and even the entire financial sector.
Let's get more on this story. As we were saying, delays in reconstituting boards of some state institutions are crippling some activities in the financial sector. George Rafi joins us on the line with more on how this is impacting the Bank of Ghana and the National Insurance Commission. George, let's first look at the Bank of Ghana and why we should be worried.
Well, Darryl, just like every institution, a board would want to guide its operations when it comes to some very big approvals. The bank or the board has to be there to oversee that. Now, in this case of the Bank of Ghana, it's not just about the activity, but also supervising the entire financial sector. If you have certain big transactions, it's supposed to be supervised by the Bank of Ghana. If you have a situation where some funds are being moved from a correspondent bank to the other, the board has to be there to approve it. And for instance, the monetary policy rate, and also whether they have to sanction a commercial bank, and also whether they have to give a license to a commercial bank, the board has to oversee all those things. So if a board is not in place, that is how that could affect the operations of the Bank of Ghana. One can just talk about the fact that, well, that authority can be passed on to the current governors in place to do this. But again, it's about the Banking Act. And therefore, you don't want the governors to take any action that later somebody can take them to court that on what authority did they take those actions, because there wasn't a board in place. And that is how this is badly affecting the Bank of Ghana, even though it might not be out for a lot of us who follow this to appreciate how bad the situation is. Also, Darryl, don't forget about the IMF program. The economists will say, all other things being equal, we are supposed to go to the board in July. Now, the IMF actually recommended certain prior actions to be taken. One is about working on these 9 troubled banks and some other things as well. The board of the Bank of Ghana is supposed to supervise all these things. So on what authority would the bank right now put together all these reports and then submit it to the IMF when the board is not in place? So for the banking sector, this is how bad the situation. Now let's move to the National Insurance Commission, and they supervise the insurance sector. There are a lot of insurance companies in place right now. Some would want to raise additional capital. Some of them would also want to introduce products as well. That should see the board of NIC come in. Now let's move from the direct insurance sector and even let's focus on the National Fire Service. Now, under the current insurance law, there's supposed to be a fire fund where the fire service can draw some monies from in terms of their day-to-day operations and all those things. Now, without the board of NIC in place, the fire service is going to have some problems in actually accessing this fund. So that is how bad it is. And if there should be any major national fire disaster in the country, it could make the service face some challenges in dealing with it because of some of these funds that they were not able to draw to actually help them in their day-to-day operations.
All right, George Rafi, thanks very much indeed. We now know that the Finance Ministry has submitted some names, and so we await the time of approval. We want to move on now. The country has the required structures in place to prevent it from becoming a hub for money laundering. That's the assurance coming from the Ghana Investment Promotion Center boss, Yofi Grant, as the country moves to re-establish offshore banking. He tells Joy Business government acknowledges the challenge that comes with this facility. The following Business Desk report has more.
The offshore banking facility would, for instance, allow non-residents to open accounts in foreign currencies with a licensed bank in Ghana. Individuals who open accounts at the facility would also not be taxed. According to the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, government decided to reopen the center because it wants to make Ghana a hub for financial services in the region. Chief Executive of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Yofi Grant, tells Joy Business government acknowledges the challenges that comes with this facility.
Before you can do that, you need to look at your regulatory framework. The law has been passed, but it's just not that alone. You need to look at the economy as well. You need to look at security, such that you don't open your gates for black money, as they call it, or have all sorts of people use your country as a transfer point for all sorts of things that are undesirable. So those laws need to be toughened. What we are gearing towards, I believe, is a stricter regime of compliance with the law, and not just rather block people, but let them in, but tighten the law to make sure that people cannot do the things that they are not supposed to do. Businesses don't do the things they are not supposed to do.
The offshore banking facility was established by the Kufuor administration around 2006, but was later closed by the NDC government over fears that Ghana could become a hub for drug money. Barclays Bank became the only financial institutions to secure license to operate the facility in Ghana. Countries like Mauritius and Seychelles have used these facilities to attract more investments into their respective countries. It is believed that establishing the offshore in Ghana could indirectly help make available some dollars that could help stabilize the Ghana cedi and indeed position Ghana as an attractive investment destination.
Now, oil exploration firm Tullow is promising more opportunities for local firms as it works to expand interest in some oil fields in the country. International oil firms have been criticized for not doing enough to encourage indigenes to work in the industry as well as offer services to most of the operators. Now, the managing director of Tullow Oil, Charles Darko, disagrees. Now, he asked that the company, as the company expands its operations further, more Ghanaians would have the opportunity to work in the oil firm.
If you look at what we did on 10, it was much better than what we did on Jubilee. And as the industry grows through the investments that we're making and through the investments Ghanaian businesses are making, we're using more and more of our local capacity. So I'm optimistic that we will see more, supply chain in Ghana being utilized here. The Ghanaian industry is responding very positively to meeting that international standard so that they can grow their businesses beyond Ghana. And I think, again, very optimistic, it's going very well.
The argument against the influx of foreigners in the country's retail market seems to be assuming a different dimension, with some major stakeholders calling for the embracing of foreigners to enhance competition. President of the National Chamber of Commerce and Industries, Nana Dr. P.J. Danko, said the first says government must regularize foreign retailers in the Ghanaian market to facilitate the job creation agenda.
There are certain things citizens can do. There are certain things foreigners cannot do. So in that direction, we need to look at the framework well, where citizens can do what can do and where non-citizens cannot do. If somebody comes here and wants to work, the person has to go through a process and qualify to do whatever work in the country. And it pertains in almost all the protocols around the globe. So for me, in terms of competitiveness, we need to allow, because we have the free trade market. And so if you want to go into any other market, in the sub-region for West Africa, the conditions are there.
Let's go on to the phone lines now and have a little discussion about this. Trade analyst Richard Ampabin joins us on the line. Thanks for your time tonight. What's your standpoint in this debate? Encourage foreign retailers, enhance competition, or just let them go?
Thank you very much. In the first place, let me also take this opportunity to greet your cherished listeners. When we are talking about trade, we need to be very, very careful and also, as a nation, have our own strategy. Because as we speak, there's a concept of global supply chain. And all it is about in global supply chain is that you don't need to manufacture a product on the soil of your distribution. What I'm trying to say is that, for instance, if Unilever wants to distribute its goods, they don't need to do the production in Tema or Takrady. They could do it in Johannesburg, in Lagos, in Malaysia, wherever, and then bring the product. Now, if it is about retail, that is where my beef is. Because now breaking barriers of production and bringing the goods. So if that will not satisfy them and that they will now want to have a hand in the retail market, as it were, I would say, and in the retail, let's distinguish between the petty trading and the wholesaling. I believe strongly that in our law, foreigners can do trading, retailing. But when it comes to petty trading, I'm afraid there's no nation in this world that they will allow you to do that. So it's all about threshold. So what is it that we are talking? If we are not careful and we open the gate, the floodgate, then of course we'll be in our own country and there will be nothing left for us to do. That's the caution.
Okay. Over the years, we've seen successive governments create task forces, various institutions put in place several laws to sort of ban these foreign retailers, and we are getting nowhere. What do you have to say about our approach in dealing with this matter?
No, it's a systemic failure, and ironically, I have taken the trouble to do a little research into this phenomenon you are talking about. And it will interest you to note that most often than not, these foreigners come and they get our own indigenous to front for them. So you go into it, the shop belongs to, for instance, Ampabin. But Ampabin has nothing to do with the activity that goes on there. All that Ampabin gets is some commission. And that is ironical. And my beef is that we need to sensitize our people, see how dangerous it is for us to be giving our commerce in the hands of foreigners. If we do that, then we are collapsing our own ingenuity. That's what I would say.
So I just want to grasp your take on this. How do you think that this can be dealt with permanently?
Oh, it's very simple. We've done it before. It's of late that we've created some kind of selfishness, some kind of I don't careism to bring all this. Now, I would wish that the Chamber of Commerce, for instance, and then Ghana Investment Center, I believe, they come together concertedly, cooperate, and make sure that all retail, which is not up to a certain threshold, which is defined by law, no matter what, whether the shop is in the name of Ampabe, but it has been given to a foreigner, then we treat it as such. No fronting. If Ampabe has a shop, Ampabe is supposed to be there and transact business. I think if we do it this way, it will go a long way to crush them out of our commerce activity.
So finally, before you go, should the punitive measure of sanctioning these foreign retailers to pay $1 million, do you think it should still hold?
Well, the point I have told you, systemic failure, who is going to check and who will bring the results that, yes, this group of people have flouted the law, and therefore they needed to pay the punitive as prescribed by law. It's a whole, I don't know how to describe it, and it's our making. My brother, I think when you people, I mean the press, I'm so impressed about the way you have supported this Galamsey menace and how successful so far it is. If we finish this battle of Galamsey, I think the next Galamsey we needed to pay attention to is these foreigners taking over petty trading in our country.
Very well said. Thanks very much for your time. That was trade analyst Richard Ampabe. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
Now, this week's edition of the Executive Lounge will feature some of the best interviews in Season 2 of the program. Firstly, CEO of Dalex Finance, Ken Thompson, called for innovation in the banking sector to improve the speed and flexibility of financial transactions. He therefore called on banking stakeholders to increase investments in innovative change.
I wouldn't say the finance industry has been innovative. They haven't been. The banks really haven't tried to grow their business in terms of the numbers of people they are dealing with. What the banks have done is that they've done some government business, invested in treasury bills. I mean, that's all they've done. I mean, they haven't really been innovative. If the banks had been innovative, we'll have investments in agriculture particularly, but they haven't been, which is fine. We've had a lot of new banks, that is fine. But if you take a country like Ghana, where the average wage is around maybe 300 cedis, per month, to be successful, you need to be speaking to the mass of the people. You can't live your life, you can't grow and you can't prosper if you're doing big government ticket items. In any case, those ticket items are no longer there. So now the banks will have to now be innovative. So the financial sector changed only with respect to the players that came onto the market. There were a lot more microfinance institutions, but a lot of them came in and behaved like mini commercial banks. So rather than focus on a certain sector, they tried to do big things that really they didn't have the capital for.
On her part, creative entrepreneur Juliet Asante is urging government to implement policies that will ensure Ghana makes significant gains in the film tourism industry.
We know what we are. I spoke earlier about Thailand selling themselves. We need to go out there, sell what we have, attract people. You need to go out there, go to Hollywood, go to the studios, get them to come here to produce, put in place policies that makes it easier for them. Take, tax breaks, let them bring the equipment. When they bring the equipment, they're not going to take it back. It's going to help our industry. Skills transfer. When I did Silver Rain, I brought in a cinematographer from South Africa. And what he thought, those who worked on the camera, from the focus puller to the camera operator, incredible stuff. When we went to South Africa, we took money there, did we not? So if people come and shoot here, will they not bring money here?
So don't miss the best of Season 2 of the Executive Lounge. It's airing on Saturday at 6 p.m. and there's going to be a repeat on Sunday at 8 p.m. on the Joy News channel here at Multi TV. Now, the Ghana West Municipal Assembly says it will establish more than various factories under the government's One District, One Factory policy. The MCE said this when he visited a 1,900 square meter privately owned warehouse at Pokwasi Wednesday afternoon. Speaking to Joy News, owner of the defunct warehouse, Alhaji Abdullahi Haruna, who expressed readiness to partner government to convert the warehouse into a factory, said the initial purpose for setting up the warehouse was to establish an electrical transformers company.
The warehouse is located at Pokwase in the Ga West municipality. The initial plan to produce building materials like nails and roofing sheets was dashed when burglars made away with newly installed equipment weeks after it had been furnished to kickstart production.
I wanted to produce carpenter's nails and roofing sheets, but unfortunately there was a burglary and they stole most of the machines. And when I came back from Europe, I found that my brother has crippled the other business I was having, which was transportation business. So for the past 10 years, this place is lying down idle. And when the new government came in and then they mentioned, this one restaurant factory, I said this, good time to speak to, people like the honorable here so that they lead, this place to the government to adopt this place, for the one restaurant factory. As you can see, it's a very big place, and we intended to employ people when we put up this place, but unfortunately, things went the way it did.
The municipal chief executive of Ga West, Neil Lamte Wilkinson, lauded the initiative and requested the owner to present a proposal for the partnership to the assembly. He added that the availability of land gives the municipality advantage over other MMDAs, particularly in Accra.
Ga West we started, I think, 2 weeks ago. Right now, we have identified a place for industrial park for the factories, which is Dedeman area. This one is just one of it. And we are lucky enough, we have a lot of facilities around that it can be used.
So you're going to have more than one factory?
We are getting more than 20, I assure you. We are getting more than 20.
One would say it's easier said than done. I'm sure you can see through more than one factory.
Yes, we are going to have more than one factory because we have the advantage. If you go to inside Accra, people will not get a space to be building these factories there. But we are lucky, the lands are here.
And you're watching Business Live. We've got our interview of the day at the other side of this break. Welcome back to the program. Time now for our interview of the day. And the Chamber of Mines has been engaging young graduates in the fight against illegal mining. Its CEO, Suleiman Koni, has been speaking with us.
It's a major challenge, quite topical in the country in the last few months, and it's important that they really understand that illegal mining is what it is. It's illegal, and they should really understand the nature and what the drivers of illegal mining are and what we can do to actually address it. Again, we need to understand that mining per se is not a bad industry. It is a good industry. It's really helped our country over the years. And it's important that we also sensitize them to really understand what the mining industry brings to our nation and the opportunities out there for them within the mining industry and its value chain for them to take advantage of.
Whenever we're talking about mining, one thing that we've finally realized is that most of these people that venture into this very, situation are unemployed, and most of these people are the ones that you spoke to today. Where do young people fall whenever issues of illegal mining comes up?
Well, young people generally would always have a challenge in an economy which is not generating that many jobs. And normally you would find that jobs generally would be found somewhere within the manufacturing space and then the service provision space as well. The service sector is expected to service, so to speak, the real sector, particularly the mining industry and other large sectors of the economy. And therefore, when you have an economy which is growing gingerly but not a job-inclusive growth, then certainly you have problems with youth.
That's it for our program tonight. Thanks for staying with us throughout the week. We are back on Monday. My name is Daryl Kwao.